It was 2:47 a.m. when Veronica opened her notes app. She hadn't planned to write anything serious, just something to empty her head. Something private. Something no one else would ever read. Her thumbs hovered over the screen. Then she started typing. Not sentences, fragments. Things she never said out loud. I don't know why I still think about that night. Or why it felt easier to breathe when you were there. You didn't try to fix me. You just stayed. She paused. Deleted a line. Typed again. Sometimes I wonder if you remember me. Or if I was just another moment in a long shift. But I remember the way you said my name. Like it mattered. Her chest tightened. She swallowed. Kept going. I'm not lonely all the time. But when I am, it feels heavy. Like I'm carrying something no one can see, and I think, if you were here, it might be lighter. Her breath caught. She stared at the screen. This wasn't supposed to be sent. This wasn't a message. It was a place to put feelings so they wouldn't stay inside her. Her phone buzzed. A notification from her best friend. Veronica didn't look up properly. Didn't double check. Didn't slow down. She tapped share. Tapped a name. Tapped send. She hit send. Her phone stilled. Her heart didn't. She blinked once, then again. Her stomach dropped so fast it made her dizzy. No. She sat up straight. No, no, no. Her fingers flew. She opened the message. Saw the name at the top. Lucas Rowan. Her breath left her in a sharp, panicked sound. Oh my God, I didn't... She dragged a hand through her hair. She stared at the screen like it might undo itself. Like the words would crawl back into her phone if she looked long enough. Her thumbs hovered. Delete wasn't an option. Unsend didn't exist. She whispered it out loud, like that might help. Please. Nothing changed. She pressed her phone to her chest. Her heart was racing. She felt exposed, embarrassed, bare. That letter wasn't romantic on purpose. It was worse than that. It was honest. She typed fast, then stopped, then erased it, then typed again, then erased that too. Every response felt wrong. Too much, too small, too late. So she did nothing. She placed the phone face down on the bed, stared at the ceiling, counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3. Minutes passed. Pause, 2-3 seconds. Across the city, Lucas sat in his car. The engine was off. The dashboard lights were dim. Outside his windshield, a power substation hummed steadily. Low, constant, alive. Metal towers, warning lights. A quiet reminder that something important was always running beneath the surface. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it absent, then frowned, then picked it up. He read the message once, then again. His jaw tightened, not in discomfort, in recognition. He leaned back in the driver's seat, exhaled slowly. He remembered her, the way her hands had trembled that night, the way she apologized for taking up space, the way she calmed someone finally stayed. He didn't type right away. He didn't rush. He let the silence sit, the way he always did in moments that mattered. Then he typed, carefully, simply. If this wasn't meant for me, I'll forget it. He paused. Read it. Added one more line. But if any part of it was real, I remember you. He hit send. Veronica's phone buzzed. She didn't touch it. Not immediately. She closed her eyes, opened them, then reached for the phone like it might burn her. She read the message once, then again. Her chest loosened just a little. Not relieved. Something quieter. Something safer. She didn't reply. Not yet. She let the phone rest beside her. Let the moment exist without forcing it to be anything else. Outside, the city kept breathing. Inside, something fragile didn't break. It was preserved. He didn't ask about the letter again. That was the first thing that made Veronica feel safe. Not the kindness, She expected that, not the gentleness. She needed that. It was the restraint. He let the words sit where they were, unfinished, unclaimed, still breathing. The next message came hours later. Not long, not careful. Just, did you sleep at all? She stared at the screen longer than she meant to. Type, deleted, typed again. Not really. 3 dots appeared, paused, disappeared. Then, me neither. That was it. No follow-up, no invitation to explain. Just a quiet admission of shared exhaustion. And somehow, that was enough to make her chest loose. They didn't text constantly, they texted intentionally. Late at night, early in the morning, in the in-between hours where no one else expected anything from him. Short voice notes followed. His voice was lower than she remembered, rougher at the edges, like someone who talked only when it mattered. Hey, just got off shift. Thought I'd check in. No pressure to reply. Her reply came 15 minutes later. I'm on my kitchen floor. I burned toast and it felt personal. A pause. Then his laugh, quiet, unguarded, filled her phone. That tracks, he said. Toast is ruthless at that hour. She smiled into the darkness. Their walk started by accident. A message sent too early. A reply that came too fast. I'm up. Me too. Want to walk? They met before sunrise. Always somewhere neutral. Always somewhere open. No cafes yet. No shared spaces that carried expectations. Just sidewalks. Breath in cold air. Footsteps falling into rhythm. They walked side by side, not facing each other. It made talking easier. She told him about her anxiety. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just the way it shaped her days. The way it made ordinary moments feel sharp. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said only, thanks for trusting me with that. Not I understand. Not I get it. Just gratitude. That mattered. He never volunteered details about his life. She noticed, but she didn't push. He spoke in fragments. Long night. Early start. Can't stay long. And yet, when he was with her, he was present. Phone face down, steps unhurried, attention steady. It felt like borrowed time. Not stolen, borrowed. Like something he always returned carefully. Some nights they didn't talk at all. Instead, they sat on opposite ends of the same park bench, listening to traffic, watching light shift across buildings. She learned his silences weren't empty. They were held. One morning, after a particularly quiet walk, she asked, can I ask you something without it meaning anything? He considered that, then nodded. Okay. Why did you reply to the letter? He stopped walking, not abruptly, just enough to acknowledge the weight of the question. Because, he said slowly, it didn't sound like someone who wanted to be rescued. She waited. It sounded like someone who wanted to be seen, he finished. She didn't answer right away. She didn't need to. Safety formed in layers, in how he never rushed her steps, in how he always let her choose the direction they walked, in how he remembered small things, not facts, but patterns, how she needed to pause before crossing streets, how she touched her necklace when she was overwhelmed, how silence made her calmer, not lonely. In return, she noticed things too. How his shoulders stayed tense, even when he smiled. How he checked his phone only when he thought she wasn't looking. How his exhaustion ran deeper than lack of sleep. They never named what they were building. That was part of why it held. One night, after a voice note that sounded heavier than usual, she said, you don't have to carry everything alone. There was a long pause before he replied. Then, I know. Another pause. I just haven't learned how not to yet. She didn't try to teach him. She just stayed. The connection didn't flare. It settled, like a light left on in another room. Not demanding attention, just present. And for the first time in a long while, Veronica realized something quietly extraordinary. She wasn't bracing for abandon. She wasn't rehearsing exits. She wasn't afraid of the silence. Because this silence wasn't absence. It was space. And she fit inside it. The first missed call didn't worry Veronica. Lucas worked odd hours. That had always been part of the quiet agreement between them. Presence without entitlement. She sent a voice note instead. Nothing heavy. Just her voice, low and soft. I'm heading out for a walk. The sky looks undecided tonight. She smiled when she sent it. Put her phone face down on the table, finished her tea. Minutes passed. She checked again. Delivered. Not open. Still, she didn't panic. Not yet. By the third day, the rhythm changed. Not dramatically. Not enough that she could name it out loud. Just small fractures. Replies that came hours later instead of minutes. Voice notes replaced by single sentences. Busy tonight. Talk soon. Always kind. Always brief. Always just enough. They still met, but only in the cracks of time. Early mornings when the city hadn't fully decided to wake up. Lucas walked beside her like he always had. Hands in his pockets, steps measured. But there was something different now. He checked his phone more. Not obsessively, carefully, as if he were listening for something only he could hear. One morning, she reached for his hand. Not dramatically, just instinct. He took it, but his grip tightened, then loosened, like he was bracing for impact that never arrived. You okay, she asked. Lucas nodded too quickly. Yeah, he said, then after a beat. Just thinking. About what? She didn't ask. She never did. The silences started doing the talking. Not cold silences. Not punishments. The kind that arrive when someone is carrying weight they don't want to set down. Her messages stayed unread longer. Her calls rang once, twice, then stopped. When he returned them, his voice was steady. Too steady. As if calm were being maintained instead of felt. One night, she woke up at 1:18 a.m. No dream, no sound. Just a sharp sense that something had shifted. She checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Lucas, all within 10 minutes. No voicemail. Her chest tightened. She called back immediately, straight to voicemail. She sat up in bed, heart beating faster than it needed to. Not fear. Anticipation without information. He texted an hour later. Sorry. Had to go offline suddenly. No explanation. She typed. Deleted. Typed again. Are you okay? The reply came quickly this time. Yes, just that. Nothing more. Days blurred. Lucas didn't disappear. That would have been easier. Instead, he stayed, half present. Like someone standing in the doorway, one foot already outside. She started noticing the timing. How his replies avoided certain hours. How he never called between midnight and dawn anymore. How he always ended conversations before they deepened. Not cold, controlled. One afternoon, she passed a construction site near the river. Generators hummed. Security lights blinked even in daylight. Men in hard hats moved with urgency that didn't look rehearsed. A digital sign flashed warnings she didn't fully understand. She paused longer than necessary, for reasons she couldn't name. That evening, she texted Lucas. You ever feel like something big is happening just out of sight? The dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Minutes passed, finally. Sometimes. She stared at the screen. That was it. The pressure didn't explode. It accumulated. in unanswered questions, in pauses where laughter used to be, in the way he sometimes held her like he was memorizing the feeling. She began to feel it then. Not betrayal, not secrecy. Distance with intention. A ceiling she could sense, but not touch. One night she didn't text him at all. She waited. She let the silence sit. And for the first time since the letter, it scared her. Not because he was gone, but because she knew he was carrying something that could not be shared. And because part of her understood, whatever it was. It wasn't optional. Veronica didn't discover the truth all at once. It arrived sideways. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, phone balanced on her knee, half listening to a local news segment she hadn't meant to play. The sound was low, almost background. She was waiting for a message that hadn't come. A name floated through the speaker. She frowned, not because it was unfamiliar, because it wasn't. Lucas Rowan, Chief Operations Director for Northline Energy, confirmed. She sat up. The anchor kept talking. Calm, professional. Like this was normal information. Like it didn't belong to someone who sent her voice notes at 4:11 a.m. about how tired he was. The screen showed a wide shot of a building she knew. Glass, steel, tall in a way that didn't feel friendly. She'd walked past it with him once. He'd said, "I work near here sometimes." Near. Her thumb hovered over the volume button. Responsible for overseeing regional grid stabilization during last winter's outages. Her chest tightened. She muted the sound. The image kept moving. Lucas, older than she'd ever seen him look. Suit. No jacket. Sleeves rolled like it was still him, but sharper. Contained. Surrounded by people who leaned when he spoke. This version of him didn't look tired. He looked necessary. Her phone buzzed. Not him. A message from a group chat she barely used anymore. "Did you see this? That guy from the blackout hearings. Kind of intense." She didn't reply. She didn't rewind the video. She didn't cry. She just stared at the paused frame until her eyes burned. Later she walked. No destination. Just movement. The city felt louder than usual. Not in sound, but in awareness. Every building seemed to know something she didn't. She passed the cafe where he liked to stop but never stay long. The park where they'd walked at dawn, when the city still belonged to people who didn't ask questions. She remembered things differently now. The way he always sat where he could see exits. The way his phone never left his hand, but was often dark. The way he'd go quiet without warning, then return like nothing had happened. He hadn't lied. That was the strangest part. He'd never said anything untrue. He'd just never opened the door. That night she replayed conversations, not for clues, for tone. When she'd asked, "Do you ever stop?" And he'd said, "Things don't stop. They transfer pressure." She'd laughed then. Now it landed differently. When she'd said, "You carry things like you're afraid they'll spill." And he'd replied, "Some things can't." She pressed her palms into her eyes. This wasn't about money. It wasn't about status. It was about scale. She knew how to hold space for a tired man. She didn't know how to hold space for someone whose absence could darken cities. He didn't message that night. She didn't expect him to. She wondered if he knew she knew. If this was the moment where things shifted without words. The silence felt heavier now. Not empty. Weighted. Like standing beneath something tall and realizing how far it could fall. The next day, she walked past the building again. Didn't stop, didn't go in, just slowed. Looked up. Glass reflected the sky in fragments. Clean. Impersonal. Untouchable. She imagined him inside, focused, calm, necessary, and she understood something quietly devastating. He hadn't kept this from her to protect himself. He'd kept it from her because once she knew, she'd never be able to unknow, and neither would their silence. Her phone buzzed that evening, a missed call. No voicemail, just his name. She didn't call back, not yet. She sat with the truth instead. Let it settle. Let it hurt where it needed to. Because knowing who someone is different from knowing what they carry. And she wasn't sure yet what she could carry with them. The first thing Veronica notices is the quiet. Not the peaceful kind, the wrong kind. Her phone stays face down on the table, screen dark, like it's refusing to look at her. She tells herself it's fine, she tells herself it's normal, she tells herself he's just busy. She has told herself this before. Morning comes and goes without a message. By afternoon, she's checking the time without meaning to. By evening, she's holding her phone again. Still nothing. Lucas doesn't disappear emotionally. He disappears structurally. No, I'm overwhelmed. No, I'll explain later. No apology waiting to soften the absence. Just gone. The first missed call is accidental. She tells herself that too. The second is deliberate. She lets it ring longer than she should. The third one never finishes ringing at all. Straight to voicemail. That's when the pressure starts to sit in her chest. Not panic, not fear, something steadier and worse. Attachment. The city feels louder without him. Not because it actually is, but because she's listening differently now. Every siren sounds longer. Every flickering street light feels unfinished. Every hum of electricity reminds her of the one place she knows he might be standing right now. Somewhere loud, somewhere critical, somewhere that does not have room for her. She tries not to imagine it. Fails. She tries to sleep. Fails again. Her mind does what it always does when it doesn't have answers. It fills the silence with stories. Not dramatic ones, practical ones. He's choosing responsibility. He's choosing distance. He's choosing a world she was never meant to step into. And for the first time since the first letter, she understands the risk she took by letting herself feel safe. She doesn't spiral because she's weak. She spirals because she waited, because she learned him slowly, because she trusted the quiet, because she believed that being careful meant being protected. Now, the care itself feels exposed. Her phone buzzes once, not him. A news alert she didn't ask for. She doesn't open it. She already knows. She has known since the second missed call that something large is happening somewhere she cannot follow. This is what it feels like, she realizes. To be close to power without touching it. Not awe, distance. She sits on the edge of her bed, long after midnight, phone resting in her palm like it weighs something now. There are things she could do. She could demand answers. She could ask to be included. She could push against the ceiling she's been pretending isn't there. She could remind him she exists. But she knows herself well enough to understand what that would cost. If she reaches now, it won't be strength. It will be fear, dressed up as courage. And she refuses to make herself small just to be heard. So she does the one thing that has always belonged to her. She writes. The second letter is different. There's no accident this time. No slipping finger. No unfinished sentence. It isn't poetic. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't ask for explanations. It names the truth and leaves room around it. She writes slowly. She writes honestly. She writes like someone choosing herself without closing a door. I don't need to know everything, but I need to know where I stand. If your world doesn't have space right now, I will step back. Not because I don't care, but because I do. I won't chase silence. I won't punish myself for wanting more than quiet proximity. If you return, return because you choose to, not because I waited. She reads it once, then again. Her chest tightens, not with regret, but with resolve. This letter doesn't ask him to shrink. It refuses to shrink her. She presses send. This time, there is no gasp. No, 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 no. Just stillness. The kind that comes after a decision. Minutes pass. She doesn't watch them. She lets the clock move without her. Outside, the city hums. Grids holding, lights steady, systems doing what they're meant to do. She exhales slowly and feels something unfamiliar settle into place. Not relief, dignity. Somewhere else, far from her quiet room. Responsibility is reaching its peak. Phones are still off, doors still closed, time still measured in consequences. But the letter has been sent. And for the first time since Lucas stepped into her life, Veronica isn't waiting in uncertainty. She has chosen a boundary, and that choice changes what comes next. Lucas doesn't come back with apologies. That's the first thing Veronica notices. When he finally stands in front of her again, days later, thinner around the eyes, jacket still smelling faintly of metal and rain, he doesn't rush to explain. He doesn't reach for her hands like someone afraid she'll vanish. He just stands there, present, which, somehow, feels heavier than words. They meet where they always said they would if everything ever became too much. The pedestrian path near the water, the one that stays lit even after midnight. Veronica had almost convinced herself he wouldn't come. Not because he didn't care, but because caring for him came with systems and consequences and locks she didn't have keys to. You didn't answer my letter, she says quietly. Lucas nods. I read it. Silence stretches. She waits for more. He lets the silence do the work instead. I didn't know if answering would turn it into a promise, he finally says. And I don't make promises I can't protect. That lands harder than any excuse. Veronica exhales, slow, controlled. I didn't write it to be chosen, she said. I wrote it because I didn't want to disappear quietly. Lucas looks at her then. Really looks. Not like a man assessing risk. Like someone deciding what kind of damage he's willing to live with. I won't hand you my world, he says. No boardrooms, no access badges, no curtain pulled back so far it crushes you. Her chest tightens. But, he continues, voice steady, I will make space for you inside it. Not later. Not someday. Now. She doesn't smile. She thinks. That's the difference. What does that look like? She asks. Lucas answers honestly. It looks like canceled plans I won't hide. Phones that go dark, but never without warning. And a life that's quiet on purpose, because loud things break. Veronica nods slowly. And it looks like me, she says. Not asking for what I don't need, but not shrinking either. Lucas reaches out then, not urgently, not like he's afraid. She takes his hand. Not because it fixes anything, because it doesn't pretend to. They don't move in together. They don't upgrade anything. Veronica keeps her place, her routines, her nights where the world still feels too loud. Lucas keeps his role. The grid stabilizes. The contracts continue. The pressure never fully leaves. But now, sometimes, he leaves his jacket at her place. Sometimes he sleeps for 4 hours instead of 2. Sometimes she waits, and sometimes she doesn't. And neither of them calls that failure. Weeks later, on a night that doesn't feel important until it is, they pass a familiar cafe. Light spills from a second-floor balcony. 2 people stand there, close, unremarkable, ordinary, in the way that only earned peace ever is. Jaden and Sophia. Veronica doesn't stop walking. She just glances up once and thinks, some storms fade, some begin quietly. This one feels like mine. Lucas squeezes her hand. No promises spoken, no endings declared, just a life that fits, inside the pressure, not outside it. If this story brought you comfort tonight, let us know in the comments. How many stars would you give it? And tell us where you're listening from. The Fable Manor loves knowing how far these cozy sleep stories travel while the world rests. If you're looking for gentle romance stories to help you relax, feel safe, and fall asleep, remember to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who could use a little calm tonight. Welcome to the Fable Manor, where cozy love stories help you sleep, storms soften, and peace always finds its way back.